So welcome, 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 our beloved colleague and sister Trish. We so appreciate your remarkable and visionary leadership and consistent commitment to community economic development. And as always at SETC, we begin all things by acknowledging our creator. We acknowledge all the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts, whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So Trish, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Thank you so much, Victor, for having me today. It's an honor to sit down and finally meet you. So my name is Trish Mandewo, and my roots are from Zimbabwe. I am actually from the reserve called Janja in Zimbabwe, and my spirit animal is the antelope. And in Zimbabwe, we do have other spirit animals. So that's my roots. And now I am blessed to live and work in the Coquitlam lands, which is also known as Coquitlam in British Columbia. A little bit about me. I am an elected official. I am a city councillor in the 5th largest city in British Columbia, which is Coquitlam. And as well in that role, I am the first Black person to be the president for the Union of BC Municipalities, which is all the local governments in British Columbia, collectively. And I also sit on the board for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So that's my political side. On my entrepreneurial side, I am the founder of a company called Synergy Executive and Boards Consulting Group. And with that company, really at the root of it is the fact that I love to see people of color and Black people especially at the decision-making tables. In other words, I want to see us in the boards. I want to see us in elected office so that we can be able to make those decisions. So that's what my company does. We do executive recruitment as well as board placement. And if I can emphasize that my passion is the paid boards, not the volunteer boards. We have done our volunteer work. Now it's time for us to move on to the paid boards. The last thing that I'm passionate about that I do is I'm an entrepreneur in residence for Simon Fraser University with the Chang Institute at SFU. And also I sit on the board for the Beedie School of Business at SFU. But I sit on about 10 boards. This is just a nutshell, but I am a board fanatic, and I really truly believe that we all need to sit at those decision-making tables. That's a little bit about me in a nutshell.
That's absolutely remarkable. I so appreciate your visionary leadership, your candor, and the way you represent us. You represent us so well. And all the governance and executive leadership experience that you have is just so inspiring in so many ways. So I give thanks once again. And it's truly a pleasure to be able to have you here and to be able to host you in this dialogue. So my next question is, what is inspiring you right now? What has you curious? What's lighting your fire?
What's lighting my fire is having people be at the table. And I always tell people, if you're not at the dinner table, you're on the dinner plate. For the longest time, our people have been on the dinner plate, and other people have been making decisions for us. But what's lighting my fire is by seeing people like us that are stepping up to the table, and they're there at the decision-making tables, and they're asking the right questions, and they're challenging the status quo. And to me, that really brings joy to me, because I've got a daughter who is 19 years old. And I want her world to be different than my world. And I want her world to be different than, you and I, like how we grew up. So as I see that change slowly coming, it brings me joy. But more so, I love the opportunity that's there for people like me and you to be able to change the narrative and to continue to say, you know what, we've been doing things one way for so many years, but now it's time to change. So the opportunity for change is what I'm hopeful and joyful for.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. And, as we discussed, I have 4 children as well. So we have to have that 7 generations thinking as our our Indigenous brothers and sisters have always shared, and as our ancestors have shared, we have to leave the space better for our children. And if we're not thinking that way, then there's something truly wrong. So I give thanks for your leadership once again. So my next question is, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work? And what are some of the approaches you take to overcome some of these barriers and challenges?
Yeah, for sure. Challenges, I always say challenges are actually opportunities, right? So the challenge that I see from my world, one is the fact that, especially if I'm speaking of Canada, in Canada, we have had the inequities that have been there for a long time. So I find that our brothers and sisters tend to self-select out. And with that, I mean, when you've got opportunity for people to be at the decision-making table, you find that people doubt themselves, that they don't see themselves in those places. And we often look at other people to make the decisions for us and to change things for us. So for me, my challenge is really if I could stand on the tallest mountain and shout to say, you have it in you to be able to be at the decision-making table, I would love to do that. So the biggest challenge is getting people to have that confidence to do so, right? So how I'm solving it is, again, by stepping into that governance space and training people in governance. I actually started in 2016. I was doing what I called the walk and talk governance sessions, where anyone that was willing to learn, I would take them on a walk in some of my favorite trails. And I'm like, here's what you need to know about governance. I'll tell them about the different models. I'll tell them about, the Roberts rules and the little things that they need to know that can give them confidence. I would do that. And I continue to do that now through my company. And I'm happy to say there are so many people that we celebrate now that now sit on boards and are effecting change because they've gone through the training that we provide. So that's a little bit, in a nutshell. I can give you so many challenges, but that's just one of them.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the candor and vulnerability. Do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work?
Yeah, my priority, it's, and I'll talk in two ways, from the political side and also from my private company side. From the political side, I would love to see more Black people step into political roles, be it local government or municipalities, be it provincial or federally. We have to be there, because if we go back to 2020 when George Floyd happened, I always reflect to how I was sitting in my home watching the TV and seeing people with placards saying, we need change, we need reform, right? From where I sit, I always say, we shouldn't be asking for other people to make the change. We need to be there, pushing the change from the inside out, right? So my goal and one of my priorities is to encourage people to be able to sit in political positions at all levels of government so that we can be able to push that. I was so happy last year. We got the Black Caucus, which was elected officials from all levels of government. We all met in Ottawa. And we were having a strategy of what we need to do in order to light the fire under people and to get them to run for different offices, right? So that's on the political side. On my business side, my goal, again, is to get people to come into the executive, into the C-suite, because for the longest time, we were held to the middle management level, right? The ceiling, the concrete ceiling was there, and we couldn't quite get into those positions, but now we can. And my company right now, we are constantly advocating for organizations to open up to that diversity. And on the board side, we are lucky that Bill C-25 actually gained assent in 2020. And Bill C-25 says that CBCA companies should diversify their boards by 2025. We're getting closer to 2025. So the appetite is there for organizations, because now they know that, and the good organizations know that diversity actually improves the bottom line, it improves their innovation, it brings in creativity, right? So, and that also starts with the board. So for us, I would absolutely love to see more people stepping into the board as well as into the C-suite positions so that they can affect the bottom line as well as the decisions.
Ashe, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. So my second last question, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like and feel like to you?
Great question. My ultimate goal is, number one, to make sure that the conversations that are happening in the boardroom have to be human-centered. What I mean by that is, for the longest time, systemic racism, systemic problems have been there and they've been intertwined into the governance. So now, as we are saying, we are changing things and we're changing the narrative. If we don't change the governance structures, we're going to continue to see the same systemic problems roll out as we go forward. So what I would like to see is to have organizations go back and review their governance structures. And this is something that we do at Synergy. We demystify and decolonize governance. And we sit with organizations one-on-one to say, this is where the problem is. And this is why, Robert's rules is Robert's rules. And this is how it actually undermines the democracy that we think we're having, right? So we love having that conversation and having them change that narrative. So what I want to see is having people like us sitting in the boardroom, because that's when the conversation can start, because people don't know what they don't know, right? So they're going to continue with the status quo if we're not there to challenge it. So we have to be there. That's number one. Number two, executive positions. We need to step into those positions, because if we look at even the products that are made, how many times do we complain that products are not made for us? If you look even for drugs, they're not made for our bodies, they're not made for our genes, because we are not there. But if we are in the executive positions, again, we are able to effect change. We are able to challenge and bring in a different lens and bring out conversation, and not conversations, but more products as well as services that, transcends race and gender as well as ethnicities. So we've got to be there. Number three, I want us to change the narrative and not just be on the receiving side. I want us to be the powers when it comes to entrepreneurship. We need to be building multi-million-dollar companies. We need to be getting into the federal procurement, which for the longest time has been closed off from people like us. But now we need to be able to play with the bigger players so that we can change history going forward. We are hard workers. And our hard work should change to now working smarter rather than working harder.
Incredible. And I couldn't agree more, especially around that procurement piece. Thank you. The purchasing power of the federal, provincial, and municipal governments are incredible. And there's so many ways and means that it can uplift and uproot folks from poverty and completely change the socioeconomic circumstances of business owners. So once again, I appreciate your leadership, your candor, and the great vision you have for so many communities. So my last question, do you have a call to action or closing thoughts for our listeners and viewers?
Thank you. So my call to action is, number one, if you are a business owner, please get your house in order. Look at that org review, have your capacity, build your capacity, and don't limit yourself. Don't put yourself in the box. Look out to grow your business from all the opportunities and all the resources that are there. But the most important thing is, don't do it in a silo. There are people before you that have walked the walk that can kind of show you the ropes. So tap into them. Don't be afraid to ask for a mentor from someone who has already done what you need to do. And for those that are in the workforce, set your goals. Go move on up. If you are in middle management, set your goals to get to that executive suite and look for a champion. And most of us look for mentors, but a champion is a person that is actually going to be even going further than a mentor. That'll be your eyes and your ears when you're not there. So make sure you find a champion for yourself. And lastly, for those executives, please do get onto the paid boards, because yes, we have given up. Yes, we have been on boards that we are passionate about. Passion is good, but also sharing your knowledge in the companies where they're looking for your expertise and getting paid for it is totally okay. So have a goal of how you're going to get into that paid board. And if you need help, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to give people advice on how they can do that, because you need to be there and your voice is needed.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. Thank you so much, Trish, for all that you do for so many and all the words of wisdom and incredible guidance you provided to all our listeners and viewers. And as always at SETC, we close the way we began, by acknowledging our creator, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Trish. We so appreciate you.
Ubuntu to you.
Ubuntu, Uhuru, indeed.